Hello,
Hi.
and welcome to By Moonlight, where it's not a phase to...
No, I have to edit this later.
That's so... I'm sorry? There's no other appropriate reaction?
Yeah, though. Ah!
My name is Umberlin, and I'm going to be RSVPing no to the rest of my life because I've met my demise.
Yeah, my name is Caitlin, and it's been 11 months since I first watched this, and it still makes me cry.
Caitlin, what are we crying about today?
We are crying about Our Flag Means Death, Season 1, Episode 9, Act of Grace.
And it really was.
It really was.
So in this episode, we've left off where we kind of ended in the last episode with the English having captured the whole crew of the Revenge, namely Stede and Ed, and they are preparing to sentence Stede to death, which is great. But Ed chimes in at the last moment and essentially says, Act of Grace.
Act of Grace!
Or perhaps yells it. And because of that, both men are spared, but the trade-off for not being killed is that they have to serve in the English army as part of a policy put forth by the king that any pirate that surrenders themselves to the English government will become a soldier in the English army.
Yup.
Yeah. So they end up in a camp for wayward seamen,
Yeah.
and that is where things go down. Such as Stede finding out that he is dead in public records.
Rip.
And also Ed and Stede kissing on the beach. But that seems like a less relevant part of this episode.
Yeah. Anyway.
Caitlin, what hooked you when it came to this episode?
I really love the trope of one character being stressed out about another character being in danger and doing anything to get them out of danger. So I loved Ed's distress when Stede is sentenced to death, and he immediately turns to him and he's like, we'll find a way out of this, don't worry. And I just remember hearing that and I'm like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff. Like, this is great, this is going exactly where I want it to go. And then just like his frantic like looking around the ship as like the guns are pointed at Stede, and just the desperate way in which he yells Act of Grace, it just gets me in my little heart every time. And the way he like frantically like pushes the blindfold off of his face, like wedding imagery much.
I was gonna say, yeah, wedding veil.
So I love that scene because it's just like, ooh, this is nice, I like that.
It certainly is.
Yeah. What was your hook?
I think that was one of them. I think After Grace is a great scene, not just because we get Ed kind of like doing the light touches with Stede again.
Oh, so good.
And like being very protective of him, but we also get the crew defending Stede after, because when we begin the season, they are looking to basically throw Stede into the ocean. Like they have no intention of staying with their captain. But at the very end, they are willing to put their lives on the line and speak up to prove that he is a pirate, which I love so much.
So cute.
My other hook in this, and this is kind of where I was like, oh, what's going on, is actually Rhys Darby's acting.
Oh my God, yeah.
When he admits to having killed Nigel. I was like fully immersed. I was like, okay. Like, one thing I love about the show is you get a lot of like close-ups of like people where they're looking right at the camera and they're talking. And I love that because you get to really see like how good someone is at acting in these moments, and I think he did a splendid job. I was really immersed from that point on.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 acting.
It is. Caitlin, not that there's many, since this episode was totally Riverdale core.
Yeah, 100%.
What was your favorite part of episode 9?
So I have a few, in which you kind of already touched on. One of them was the crew helping Stede out during the whole Act of Grace scene. I loved the callback to We Talk It Through, and then they all go as a crew. Like, it's just so sweet. And then Stede's face afterwards, just like, yeah, like, oh, they got it. Like, they got through. And it's just like such a lovely moment between them, because I feel like it's the most like solidarity we've seen between the crew and Stede,
right? Of
them not only sticking up for their captain, but like Stede seeing that like his crew actually does care about him and listens to him, and like all of that. I thought that was really sweet. I also just love that they have the plant from episode 1. Considering the fisherman was like, take care of the plant, and he did. So that was really sweet. I remember first watching this, I audibly awed. Audibly, if you will. Audibly.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, it's so cute. I love that. Before we even talk about the kiss, because I feel like we can spend days on that, but one of my favorite parts of the episode was when, not like favorite and like, wow, I love watching this, more of just like acting wise and just tone wise, is when Chauncey has Stede at gunpoint and is telling him that he defiles beautiful things and is a monster and is not human. What I appreciate about that scene is, yeah, Chauncey ends up like tripping and shooting himself in the same exact eye that his brother was accidentally stabbed through, which like in itself is comedic, but to me, like when I first watched this and still do, like I watch it and I go, this is horrible. And half of that, most of it comes from the fact that Stede's scream in that is the most gut-wrenching scream I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Ever in my life. Like, I remember, like, my stomach dropped when I first heard it. And it's just, I don't know where that came from in Reese Darby. I hope he's okay. It's terrifying because, like, I feel like it's just a culmination of everything that's been, like, built up inside of Stede. Like, all, like, this, he's such low self-worth and he watched Nigel die, and then he literally just watched another person die in front of him, and just for all of that to just like come at him and just come out of him in that way, it was so like horrifying in a way. And I also appreciate that, like, that and the crying that he did earlier, like, I don't think is comedic in any way. Like, I really like in the first episode he's crying because he's afraid of battles and stuff like that, and it's like, it's funny, but like I like that as the season goes on we see more crying from Stede in a way that's just like, yeah, he's allowed to cry, like this is okay. And like, I feel like you don't see that a lot, especially like with male characters.
Let men cry.
Yeah, like let the boys cry. So I just really appreciated that, and also it's just like, it's such a rough scene, and to have that in this silly, fun pirate show, is really cool.
Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite scenes as well.
Really?
If not my favorite, in addition to the crew standing up for Stede and the Act of Grace scene. I think what I like about it, what sticks out to me, is the specific flash scenes that they use.
Yeah.
Specifically for Ed, because they choose this scene of him from just recently when he's just shaved his beard.
Yeah.
I just think that there's a lot of intention behind doing that, and I liked that a lot. I also thought that the acting was spectacular, and I really just enjoyed Chauncey's like little devastating monologue where he's like, "You defile beautiful things," like horrifying, crazy, fucked up. Sad. Give me more.
Give me more.
So now that we've talked about some of our favorite scenes, I think it's time that we talk about the scene. And I have a feeling we'll spend quite a bit of time on this.
Frenchie writing fan fiction.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I mean, also, I love that. Let's just take a moment to say that, acknowledge that scene is hilarious, just because it's like an acknowledgement that, like, yeah, there's probably gonna be fan fiction about this show if there isn't already. And Frenchie's in on it. Like, he's totally in on it.
He invented fan fiction and pyramid schemes. He's doing the most.
We're talking about the kiss, of course.
Oh, of course.
This is like a big moment in the show, if not the biggest. Yeah. I like that I had to think about it. I was like,
like, wait.
Is it? So in this scene, Stede is panicking, and I think he's panicking a little bit because he's afraid that he's defiled yet another beautiful thing when Ed shaves his black beard. And he heads out and like sits on the beach, and that's where Ed joins him, and they end up having this amazing dialogue.
Heart to heart.
Don't cry yet.
It's okay.
We still have some things to talk about.
I know.
We'll like the credits that roll at the end of this video, just like lay them over a video of crying. So let Caitlin cry.
Hashtag let Caitlin cry.
I don't know, Caitlin cry. So they have this great dialogue together where Ed kind of talks about what makes him happy, and he says that he reckons what makes Ed happy him is you/Stede, which hurts, like ow ow owie. And before Stede can even answer, Ed kisses him, and it's like one of the most like romantic things ever.
It's so sweet.
And
and then don't worry, I'll take over.
Thanks.
Let Emberlyn cry. And then after they kiss, Stede looks at Ed and says, "You make Stede happy," which I think really is just the icing on the cake So when I first watched this, I remember I wasn't even thinking about, like, you watch it now and you're like, this is a romantic setup. Like, they're sitting on the beach. It's like sunset. And it's wonderful and intimate, and it's just the two of them. But I remember, like, not even thinking that that's where the scene was gonna go.
Yeah,
and
me neither.
Like, I was still in denial that this is where the show was gonna go.
Yeah.
So when I first watched this, and Ed starts thinking about, like, what makes him happy, and I remember him going, like, I reckon what makes Ed happy is, and I was watching it and I was like, you, and he goes, you, and I go, huh? What?
Yeah.
I was like, wait, and I, like, backed it up and I was like, did I hear that correctly? And then they kissed, and I just remember going, they're doing it! Oh my god, they did it! This is great. Like, it's real. Like, it's happening.
Real. It's
and
happening.
Then what really got me was just Stede saying, you make Stede happy, because it's just like, that was the first time that, like, Stede really was just like, oh shit, I like you. And it was just so sweet. And also on the theme of ways to say I love you without saying I love you.
Well, that's one.
So that's one. So it's just so sweet, because all you want in life is to be happy and be surrounded by people who make you happy. And the fact that they are that for each other is really, really sweet. And just the fact that Ed can be himself around Stede, and is probably the only person he truly can be himself around, and was the first person who brought him to, like, Edward to the surface. That is, like, his whole, like, Blackbeard persona. It was just really, really sweet. And I also really like that it's just, they kiss, but then they just continue. It's not a big deal. I mean, like, it is, but, like, it's just, like, it happens.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
Like, what I like about this scene is that they don't acknowledge it. It's not like, you kissed me.
Yeah.
Huh? Like, they just kind of go on with their lives.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I haven't moved on, though.
Yeah, I think you summarized it perfectly. That's what makes this scene good, is, like, and not just that, they're together and he gets to be himself around Stede, but also that, like, they're the only two people around. I like that they got to have that moment together.
Yeah.
Like, usually the crew is around, or, like, somebody, and it was like it was just them in the ocean. What the fuck? And it's such a good kiss too. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to, like, go into a deep analysis of, like, how to kiss somebody, but nah. Good job.
Good job.
You did it. And I think what makes it special too is, like, you've got two actors that are, like, close friends who've worked together for a long time, so they have a lot of chemistry already.
Yeah.
And maybe it's weird to kiss your friend, but they definitely I feel like they have a lot of chemistry and a lot of good energy to play off of, because they've known each other for so long.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, I think in a past episode, it couldn't be anybody else playing them.
No.
So there's that.
You can just tell that I'm like low-key quoting in an interview, but, well, like, they took care of each other like during these scenes. So that's gotta be hard to do, like, intimate scenes like that. And I just think it's, like, really shows, like, how good of actors they are and how good of friends they are. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing I really like about it is, like, Stede kissing him back, like, mid-kiss, 10 out of 10. But it's, like, one of the only other times that other than, like, the hand on the shoulder in episode 6, that he shows affection back, which, that's why, to me, like, I feel like that's such, like, a big moment where Stede's just, like, even if he doesn't quite know what's going on yet, like, he wants this. And I just like seeing that part of Stede, like, slowly but surely come out.
Yeah.
As he starts to learn.
Yeah.
Like, how to be loved and to love, and it's just very, very sweet and wonderful, and look forward to more of that in future seasons.
Oh, it's funny too, because I see gifs of this kiss go around, like, the various social media platforms all the time, and it's hard not to get, like, stuck just, like, going, like, watching it, because you're like, wow. I definitely
stare at it for hours every time I see it,
but
like a normal person.
But what I will say is, like, watching it again here, like, after not watching it for a long time, it's definitely different than I remember it being.
Oh yeah.
And by that I mean exceptionally more passionate and romantic. So that's good. Jot that down. It's something that I have to work on with Dana in therapy. I've talked about this before. There's like 2 ways you watch this show. The first way is the way where you're like, nah, this could be happening. And then the second way is like, this did happen.
Yeah.
So watching it the first time, I remember the shock. I remember the screaming and jumping up and down.
Yeah.
It was a good time. I remember just like not realize, like, I remember a lot of things being very like validated.
Yeah.
When we watched it. So it's nice to look back now and be like, yeah, this happened.
It's happened.
It's kind of like, it's not just validating in the sense that like, okay, it looked like things were going this direction. But it's also validating, I think, in a larger social sense that like we can tell stories about queer older folks and have them be widely received and successfully received and beautiful. So I hope that shows like this prompt other stories between older queer folks.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole generation of older queer folks out there that are kind of missing out on this because of the AIDS crisis and because of, you know, other things that have happened leading up to this moment. So I just it's
also just nice to see like a middle-aged love story.
Yeah.
Because like we don't need another like coming of age like romance.
Yeah.
Like, we're good.
I don't think it's for me anymore.
Yeah.
You know? Like we watch a lot of, I feel like and I hate to say this, but like Wednesday really took me out of my element when we watched it last, and just maybe even Stranger Things did a little bit. I'm sorry, everyone. Because it's like it gets to the point where it's like I'm 24 and I'm watching 2 teenagers kiss.
Yeah.
I would like to stop doing this like now.
Like I'm good.
Yeah, like and there comes a point where like the same young adult books, like I think this happens in your mid-20s, they don't hit anymore.
Yeah.
So when you finally get to you finally get these middle-aged love stories where it's like you can maybe see yourself more in those folks than you can in,
because it's more mature.
Yeah. It is enjoyable and comforting. Sorry.
Also, I still get butterflies every time I watch the scene.
Yeah, me too.
Again, it's been 11 months.
Me too.
So every single time, without fail, I'm like, oh.
It makes me jump out of my skin.
Yeah.
Like every time. Yeah.
Which just says something. Like I feel like there's a lot of things I can watch over and over again and it doesn't give me the same feeling that it did when I first watched it. But every time I watch this scene, I'm just like, wow.
All right. So, immediate standout characters this episode, Caitlin?
Stede.
Yeah.
Stede. I mean, a lot, like you were saying, like Reese Darby's acting throughout the whole season was great, but in this episode I feel like it's really showcased because we're getting more of the dramatic side of his acting and of Stede in like the more serious moments. And again, in that scene with Chauncey, it's just the absolute distress on his face, and also the like exception that he has of like, yeah, I am a monster. Like, you're completely right. Like, it's so sad because this man has no self-worth. And it's just like really like sad to see because like you as the audience are like, but no, that's not true. Like, it's okay. Like, we still don't really know exactly like how his family feels at this point, but like we already know that Stede would definitely be happier with Ed, and Ed clearly wants to be with him. And we like just saw them kiss, like go to the dock with him. They're gonna run away. It's gonna be great, and everything is great. Taking a boat to China. It's gonna be fine. But also like it was such a good balance of like the dramatic acting and the comedic acting. I felt because like he had some really hilarious moments when. Like one of my favorite lines or scenes too is when he and Ed get the document to sign the Act of Grace, and they're both just like, ooh, this is a really, really long document, lots of words, and just for no reason, like they're told like they're gonna be there for 10 years, and Stede just goes 10 human years. Yeah. like yeah, bud, what else?
Dog years?
That, and then one of my favorite lines in that scene is at the end when he goes, "We're gonna need a copy of this, obviously." Like I don't know if that was scripted.
That's such
or
a
not,
dad
but
vibe
it's so
to
funny.
do.
It's
That's
just,
like
it's hilarious.
your dad at Home Depot getting the receipt for the plywood he just bought.
Yeah,
insane. Yeah.
Like, I need a copy of this, please. I know. I just thought that was really funny, but
yeah.
I also in the whole beach and kiss scene, just watching like his facial journey of like he's sitting there because he's feeling really guilty because he's learned that his wife has reported him dead, and he's probably wondering. It's probably the first time that he's acknowledged that there were consequences to his actions of abandoning his family.
Right.
So I thought like seeing him kind of like work through that. But then also, like, as he listens to Ed, and there's like this moment where he just kind of goes, like he like happy like sighs to like what Ed is saying, and it's just like really sweet where you see him being like, wow, he had a good time with me, like that's really cool. And then when Ed asks him to like, or says like we could go to China, and Stede is like, he's clearly not 100% on board. Like, I don't think, like, his brain is really caught up with everything that's happening. Right. So he's just like, oh, it's pretty far away. But then he remembers that Mary said, oh, well, we only have this one life, so we got to make the most of it. And then that's when he says yes. And then, but he's still like, I think so, probably. Like, he's not 100% present, I don't think, in that moment. No. So it's a really interesting look to his mind and, like, what's going on there. He's a character I would love to pry open and just be like, hello,
what's in there,
what's going on,
weird stuff apparently.
I often like to say that I'm sticking Stede in the microwave. I just feel like he'll just do better.
He needs to go in there.
He needs to go in there, spin around a bit,
ruminate a little bit,
radiate. What about you?
This might be controversial. I don't think so, but like Rory Kinnear as Chauncey Badminton in this episode really just killed me. Like, he had some great comedic lines at the beginning because he's like absolutely losing his mind, and then toward the end he is like arguably terrifying. When he comes after Stede,
the way he looks at Stede, like when he has the gun to his face,
and he's like so drunk, absolutely obsessed. Like, I remember at the beginning of the episode, just I think he's another person who I think his delivery is excellent. So I really enjoyed him this episode. I hope there's like a third badminton brother.
I really hope that they make the joke of like, there was just like a lot of badmintons, or any badminton person that's just played by Rory Kinnear. I think it'd be so funny.
It would be. I feel like that's the only way it should be.
100%.
You know, like forever. Until we're all dead. 8 more seasons just for that experience of having one badminton per season that needs to be defeated like a final boss.
I like that. I want to give an honorable mention to Officer Hornberry again, because he and the other guy whose name I forgot, who were hostages on the Revenge earlier in the season, are back.
They
in this
lived,
episode.
yes.
They lived, they're back, all is well. But like, I was watching him in the background because he seems very troubled, because again, I think he clearly like kind of admires Stede in a way, because he's just so different.
Right.
And I just like, you see him in the background, like as like Chauncey's giving all like these orders, like you're sentenced to death, and he's in the background like, ooh, oh no. Like,
it's like a Z plot.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, what does Officer Thornberry think of all this?
Yeah, and just the way that he like is kind of the one to be like, oh no, like, yeah, that works for us. Like, it's great. And like, he's clearly like so relieved when Stede is no longer like at the point of like the other end of a gun. And he's just like, like everything's all good.
Everything's all good.
I mean, he's just a fun character. He's like a character that you never thought would be that important, but like just the way the actor plays him is just so interesting. And like, it's like he created his own backstory for this guy, and it's a guy who's like a fanboy of Stede, basically.
Essentially.
Which is kind of funny.
It's like that one ensemble member in your high school theater club who's like just kind of funny. Whenever they're on stage, they're just doing a little bit of their own. And you're kind of into it. You're like, okay, what's that guy's story? And he's doing his own thing over there. And it seems like the drama club teacher hasn't noticed, so she's just kind of let him do his own thing. So like, I don't know, in Les Mis at the end, when everybody's like fighting for liberation, he gets back together with his wife and kids or something. It's always like there's some backstory. He has no lines. Really. He's just kind of vibing, you know? I appreciate that. And he's the best character. And he wins a local theater award.
Good for him.
So
deep cut.
Another person that I want to give all of my flowers to this episode is Ed. I think Taika Waititi does some fantastic eye acting at the very end of this episode, when Lou Reed's Perfect Day comes in. It hurts a lot. He kind of like goes from this like wide-eyed, like the world is ahead of me, hopefulness in his face, to like hopelessness and anger and a little bit of sadness that like, this guy left me because us pirates were all in various stages of screwing each other over.
Ow.
It hurts. It hurts. So I really appreciated that. I also like that we go from like the piano to just like the perfect day piano. Like, does that transition really
that
get me?
Is so good.
Every time I'm like I'm always like waiting for that, and it flashes to him at the end of the ship. Those wide
the wide shots.
Yeah, those wide view sheet scenes, they always get me.
So good.
That one is marvelous.
The colors.
Yeah.
And what I really like about that is, and once I find again the interview, that I've read so many interviews about this show.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
just like, I need more. I need more content.
Yeah.
What I love about this show is David Jenkins has said that they try to bring out more color in Ed's wardrobe as he falls more in love with Stede, and it's purple.
Yep.
So he's got like that purple undershirt that he's wearing, the purple that he wears on the fancy boat. And then in this scene, the sky is purple for him. And
I can't be seen right now.
yeah. And I just think that's like wonderful because it's like he's put all of his love out there, and for the sky to be that color is just, it's so beautiful and it's so heartbreaking.
Don't fucking look at me.
I'm zooming in on you as we speak.
To just sit with this feeling and not die.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Caitlin, favorite quotes from this episode?
Oh, I've got a few. I've already said that I love Frenchie saying I wrote a bit of fan fiction about Captain Bonnet, which I think is funny. All made up, all scenarios, all totally made up. I thought that nod was hilarious. And also, again, he invented fan fiction. He invented pyramid schemes. He is the character of all time. I love "Calm Down, Mr. Wavy Blade" because it's just so funny.
Yeah.
Obviously, what makes Ed happy is you, and then you make Stede happy, which we've already discussed. And
Taking
I
a
don't want to
bite
cry again.
Out of my microphone.
Yeah. And then I liked when Ed said, "I'm folding stuff, and that's okay," because I say that every time I do my laundry.
Way to convince yourself.
Yeah. I'm folding things, and that's okay. Another part of this whole episode is, of course, Izzy's the captain now.
Yes, he's the captain now, yeah.
But the crew's not having it, so they decide that Olawande is captain, and they're going to throw Izzy overboard, which is hilarious, because if you look at everybody's face, they're all having a grand old time, especially Roach. This is the best day of his life.
Yeah.
Which, good for him.
He's been bloodthirsty for too long.
Yeah, he finally gets to do it. And Izzy starts pleading with Olawande, and it's just like, please, like, we can, like, have some middle ground or something.
Yeah.
And he says something, and then Olawande just goes, everybody's got their own style. And just the way he says it is just so smooth, and his face, he's just like, nope, I'm the captain now. So I want to see like more of that come from him in like the next season, and just like see if he does more of not necessarily like captain-y stuff, although like I would totally be fine with him being a captain, but like maybe be like a first mate as well or something. Like I don't know how that all works, but like I just love him as a character.
Give
and I
this
want
man
more
leadership roles.
Yeah.
Stat.
What
That's
were
a good
yours?
one. When they show up to the camp, and there's a British soldier reading off the list of names, and they get to Ed, and he goes, "That's me, Edward Teach, born on a beach."
Iconic.
Say it all the time. Can't help myself. Doesn't even matter if I am not named Edward, and if I'm not at the beach, I'm still gonna say it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just fun to rhyme.
It is. And then right before they kiss, and Stede says he only has stupid ideas, Ed goes, "Oh, shut up."
Yeah.
Say that again. To me. To my face. Because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like in the classic, like, "I'm about to kiss you soon" trope, shut up is one of my favorite things that you say to someone before you're about to kiss them.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Help.
I also like that it's just like, it's like your friend is just like, "Oh, I'm just gonna talk down on myself," and you're like, okay, stop.
Yeah,
like,
you're over it. You're like, I'm not here for that.
We both know that's
I
not
am
true.
disinterested in that rhetoric. And then I love when they're talking about overthrowing Izzy out together in the crew, and I guess Pete's not involved in this conversation because he could potentially be first mate to Izzy.
Yeah.
And they're talking about overthrowing them, and they're like, "Oh, no offense, Lucius," since they're together, and Lucius is like, "Oh no, don't apologize to me. I mean, I love that man, but his leadership is not his strength."
Yeah.
So funny.
Love that.
Like, he can acknowledge his partner's faults. Valid. Ethical. And then, of course, I reckon what makes Ed happy is you and vice versa. Excellent scene.
10 out of 10.
Do it again. David Jenkins, I'm in your walls. So, a lot of bangers. But how did that enter you?
I'm in distress.
There was no end.
I don't know.
Like, it didn't end.
We shut it off right after the kiss, and that was it.
The TV just like fell off the wall.
Yeah. No, I'm completely in distress. Again, it's been a while since we've watched it, and I really forgot how much this actually hurts me. So when I think of this episode, I'm like, it's the kiss episode, but I forget everything that happens around it. Not like forget, but like, you know, you're not thinking about it. So by the end of it, I was just like in such distress. And then again, I think back to when I first watched it, and I'm like, I remember like yelling at my screen, being like, "You're not going back home, are you?"
Yeah.
No, I'm like, there's got to be another episode. There better be another episode. I mean, like begging for another episode to be like played after this. I'm like, this cannot be happening. I'm like,
no.
You just kissed this man. You basically both confessed your love to each other, and you're going home. What are you doing? Like, get your head out of your ass.
Ow.
So it was just complete distress, and I love how open-ended it seems on Mary's end, because like you don't know if she's happy or not, because she's sitting there and she's like,
her teacup shaking. Yeah.
So you're like, is she happy about this news?
Yeah.
Is she not happy?
Right.
Who knows? I guess we'll just have to watch this episode.
Right.
So I thought that was an interesting touch to end it on too. Also, what I really like about that scene is when Stede is standing in his house and he announces to Mary that he's home. The lyrics, "You're gonna reap just what you sow," play, and I just think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that.
Holy mother, help me. I don't even know what to say. Yeah, it's a great ending. What I love about this ending is obviously the Good Place window. If you've seen The Good Place, then you know that's where they also shot some scenes from the final season of that. And then something that I want to draw attention to and that I think is really thoughtful is the scarf around Mary's neck.
Yes.
Because it kind of parallels the scarf that Ed wears, the black scarf, corsage, whatever you want to call it, and how that's
Cravat,
kind of a symbol. Yeah, cravat. And how that's kind of a symbol of like Stede's presence or possession over that person. They're really rude for that. I like financial compensation.
It's wonderful.
So yeah, it's a great ending. Devastating, unfortunate, hurts every time. Ow.
Yeah.
Handle with care. But before we let it go, which arguably neither of us have yet in the past couple of months.
Never will.
I think we need to put this episode on our tier list.
On our tier list.
Which is going to be interesting.
Yeah. There's multiple places this could go. So our tier list is at the tippy top. We have Made Me Eat All My House's Drywall and the Accompanying Nails, Mentally Ill Affectionate, Neutral Like My pH Balance, Mentally Ill Foreboding, and Riverdale Core.
Riverdale Core.
Nice. Where did it land on the tier list for you?
Well, Caitlin, I'm wearing my fork and spoon earrings today because I need them to eat my drywall.
Oh, nice.
Naturally. Like, and I wouldn't even say my house is gone. I'd say the whole neighborhood has been leveled.
Yeah.
Like, I got really hungry. And the nails were crunchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zesty, if you will.
Yummy.
How about you?
I have to agree. I think, again, like, rip to my house. Sorry, I know we just rebuilt it, but it's gone again.
Yeah.
So I like just for the kiss scene alone, like I'm eating the drywall. I am, eating all the things. But I also want to like put a slice of it in Mentally Ill Foreboding just because of the distress that it causes me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hurts.
I'm putting like most of it in. I'm eating the drywall.
Cutting in half. Placing one bit there, the other up there.
Just to acknowledge the mental distress this causes me.
Makes sense to me.
Nice.
So, Caitlin, we did it.
We did it, Joe.
We got to episode 9.
Yay.
Which means there's only one left in our series.
Uh-oh.
Thank you for tuning in this week. Please join us next week when we watch season 1, episode 10 of Our Flag Means Death. Wherever you go, there you are. How unfortunate for us.
How unfortunate for us. Like, comment, subscribe, and all of that stuff that YouTubers say.
Or like and rate it on Spotify or one of your
That
favorite
too.
listening services.
Give us all the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yell with us.
Please.
Follow us on our socials.
I beg you.
Cry with us.
Help me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.